when you first thought you had HIV or some form of sexual transmitted disease that couldn't be cured. Now, this is a disclaimer. If somebody's going through a HIV crisis right now, you could actually turn away if you like, because I would not like to open any old wounds. I understand that you guys may be going through a lot right now, so just a heads up. So this is an actual true story, and what I'm about to say is it's going to sound like it doesn't make any sense, but it's an actual real thing. And this also has a lot to do with the power of the mind as well too. So just listen up and hear me out. But anyway, here we go. So there's this person that had unprotected sex a couple of times, and they had unprotected sex I would say back to back. Now of course this wasn't the first time this person had unprotected sex. Throughout his life he had unprotected sex before, especially when he was in a relationship. But this is nothing new. And yes, even back then he got like a little scared when the person he was actually going with told him, hey, she slept with somebody and he probably got something. Of course, when he went, come to find out, he was lucky. He didn't have nothing. But this was a long time ago. Now, the story I'm about to tell you now is something very recent. So this particular person ended up having unprotected sex like 3 times. Well, matter of fact, scratch that. It was actually 4. 3 times with the same girl and 1 time with a different girl. I know, this actually sounds pretty wild. But it gets even more crazier. Now, the first time he actually had unprotected sex with this girl, right? It didn't bother him at all. It didn't really cross his mind. He was just living his life. But even though it didn't bother him, he did still feel some type of sadness, and he couldn't describe why. But it just wasn't that serious at the time. So he decided to have sex with her again, unprotected, but this time wasn't still as bad. Now, this is great. It gets crazy. He ended up having unprotected sex for a 3rd time, and of course, at that time, I don't think it bothered him until something on his social media crossed his page. Now, he happened to be on Instagram one day, and he noticed there's this lady that came on Instagram talking about, hey, in some type of industry, I guess the porn industry, that there were somebody that had HIV or got HIV. And mind you, he just had unprotected sex not that long ago. And once that crossed his page, it really hit him hard. And yes, social media does have that power, guys. It's a very powerful tool because, believe it or not, if he probably never seen it that day, it would have never bothered him. Which, in a way, it's actually a good thing it did cross his page because it did kind of change his life forever. Now, I believe from that day on, it started to bother him. And let me tell you something. When you are waiting for a test result, or you didn't get the test results yet, it is going to play with your mind. Now, this is where it gets even more bizarre, and I didn't even know something like this even existed, right? Do not forget, I brought up the power of the mind earlier, and how the mind could, pretty much play tricks on you or make you think of things you never thought of before. But before I get into that, Google is not your friend when it comes down to researching certain things. It can be your friend to a certain extent, but for the most part, it's going to have your mind betray you. Now, just to keep in mind, you're already starting to feel like you feel symptoms, right? You don't know where these things are coming from. You're not sure what's happening, but whatever the case may be, you starting to feel some form of symptom. Even though this person never thought about HIV before, this is the first time they actually think about it, and they starting to feel symptoms. But that's not even the worst part. When you start to Google things, the very same thing you Google, you start to feel. I am not even making this up. If you Google, does HIV make you hot? You'll start to feel hot. If you Google, does HIV give you headaches? It'll start to make you feel like you got headaches. So not only can you physically feel it, it sometimes manifests physically as well too. Because I've heard of stories of people saying they've gotten rashes and all types of stuff on their body, which again could be a sign of HIV. But the problem with HIV, some of the things intertwine, right? It's hard to explain. For example, cancer may have similar symptoms to HIV. People that have some type of tumor may have similar symptoms. You may feel hot, you may feel cold. It's all intertwined, so it makes things even worse. Now, back to your mind playing tricks on you. So not only was you feeling it in your mind, you're now visually seeing it. Now, next thing you know, you start having a whole bunch of things on your YouTube channels about HIV. It's throughout everything, not just Google. Like, Google is It's just wild. When you're at the stage of anxiety, right? You feel like everything is against you because no matter where you go and what you do, it feels like HIV is around the corner. Even if you go to places like Reddit, it's even worse because what you end up having is a lot of trolls and people that simply play games or mind games. Don't even start with the psychopath or sociopath that's on Twitter or on Reddit that simply take pleasure off of your pain or your anxiety. And they are not the only one. You also got those that actually feed off of fear as well too. These are people that normally give you false information about HIV so they could simply make money off of it. And yes, they sound extremely intelligent, which is what makes it even worse. So you don't even know where to go or who to turn to. And that's not even the worst part. They got something known as the window period. This is probably one of the most excruciating parts of when it comes down to HIV. So in other words, there's a time that you have to take the test. If you take the test at the, say, too early, it'll just say negative and then you'll get all hype. It will just defeat the purpose of getting tested. Now, according to Google, it takes about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Now, the problem with this is sometimes it says 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. If you are the beginner of when it comes down to these things, you don't know what to believe. So weeks will go by, even months will probably go by, and you'll start to feel ill. Not start to feel ill, but you'll feel ill the whole time. It's actually one of those situations where you simply cannot escape, you just have to wait. And these are the symptoms, if you guys want to know. You feel dizziness, you get hot, you feel like throwing up. Sometimes people get diarrhea because these are symptoms of HIV, but these are also symptoms of what you might consider anxiety or HIV. Now, what this person is experiencing, and this is an actual real thing, is known as HIV phobia. It's an actual real fear of, having or contracting HIV. With these particular people, it doesn't matter how many times they take the test, they're just simply not going to believe it, and they're going to take it more and more and more and more and more. And this is exactly what happened to this particular person. This person actually developed not just anxiety, but they develop HIV phobia, which is a fear of HIV. The phobia is so strong, it makes you think that you actually have it in real life. This person didn't want to be around anybody. They just wanted to be around themselves. They walk around. They simply didn't know what to do. All this person could do is wait. And what's so interesting is that this person didn't even have the urge to have sex anymore. The urge for sex was simply gone. So of course the moment of truth came up and he actually got his first test. And guess what? The doctor says, hey man, you were good. And of course he was good for a while, but guess what? The window period started affecting him again. He started thinking, hey, did I take it too early? And of course he decided to take it again. Now, after he takes it a second time, his doctor was like, hey, just leave it alone. Do not worry about it. And just like the last time, he was cool for maybe a week. Then a third time, the doctor was like, okay, forget it. Well, the doctor didn't just say forget it, but he actually went to the doctor so many times to the point where the doctor simply doesn't want to give him an HIV test anymore. It was just too much for the doctor. So his next best option was to actually go to the ER, which of course they did. And by the way, you could actually go to the ER if you felt like you was exposed by with HIV. They'll try to give you some type of pill or something like that. But if it's past the window period, there's nothing much they could really do, but I guess give you like a counseling maybe. And guess what? For the third time it says no HIV. He was good. But guess what this person did? As soon as he got better, he went right back to the female that he actually had unprotected sex with. But this time, he actually had protected sex with her, but he actually ended up having unprotected oral. And guess what, guys? Back to square one again. He was doing research and kind of find out, right? And to be clear, once I tell you this, do not take advantage of the situation, but just hear what I gotta say. Now, according to research, it's not easy to get HIV. Now, if you do get it, do not forget it's a disease that it can't be cured, but it's not a disease that you get all the time. This is why they only have about 1.2 to 1.3 million people with HIV. Another thing too, women to male transmission with HIV is extremely low, which I didn't even know myself. Like, that was wild. And that's how you also found out HIV through oral sex is also extremely low as well too. Some people say it's impossible. Some people say through theory could happen. We don't know what the case is. But the thing is, if you do have a wound around your what area, you should wear a condom. Because that's how it's usually passed through oral sex. And because of that interaction, especially getting oral sex with a valid condom, it's what made him spiral all out of control again. And let me know if you want a part 2.